Outside the construct, I know I can't die. I don't fear death, but you're going to put me into a world where I can actually get eaten by a shark. I can actually be on a battlefield and experience the euphoria of my shield locked in a shield wall as an enemy force comes down the hill toward us. I said, I can experience these things and then come and tell you guys about it. I'm going to sign up for that. I mean, I know a lot of other people because we don't really know how much in stasis our reality is outside the construct. They wanted to break the United States up. And the one tool that they use even today in the media is racial diversity. Racial diversity and racial conflict is the #1 tool that these people use in order to get their way when they're trying to control a population. It doesn't matter which element of that population they're trying to control. But they have been in control of the banks and the media all this time, and they use them together. And there's no other force and power in the world that can oppose that, because no one else has a voice loud enough to oppose what the media is. And back then it was the newspapers. The greatest theft against the United States of America was done under the guise of the Reconstruction. It was done by the World Banks. They stole the South in this method, and they used the blacks to do it. And to cover their tracks, they spent about 30 years just blitzkrieging the media with how evil Caucasians were in slaving. They covered their tracks is what they did.
I'm telling you that I am very well read on the UFO, on the UAP phenomenon deal, and I find zero evidence. No one has made their case that we are being visited by extraterrestrials. But what they have shown is that there are vehicles being used by a race in our underworld, and they want us desperately to believe that they're coming from far away when all the activity, the human abductions, when females are abducted, the implants are done, it is done in sterilized environments in the underworld. And some of these women have been through retrocognition, through, what is that, the hypnotic technique where they take them back.
Regression.
Yeah, hypnotic regression or whatever. Yeah. Well, there's many testimonies of females who, under hypnosis, remembered exact details, and they brought it up. Their memories, it's like a psyop was being conducted in case they tried to remember anything. And in that psyop, in their immediate environment, under a white light, there was little guys with green heads. But when the light wasn't really blocking them from seeing beyond in the shadow, they saw men in white lab coats and guys in black suits. And this tells me that every bit of this was psyop from the beginning. There is an alien abduction program, but it's humans abducting humans, and the scapegoat is the alien. And every bit of this is subterranean. This is a subterranean operation. I was just talking with Nino the other day and explaining to him that, hey, Nino, listen, I'm not denying UFOs. I'm not denying UAPs. What I'm telling you is 99.9% of all eyewitness and U.S. military reports about this activity are these things are going in and out of bodies of water and in and out of the ground. And until this day, we still have no video footage of a UFO entering the atmosphere. What we have is a race below us. This race below us is doing all this. It's 100% a spiritual phenomenon. The very fact that you believe that there are restrictions to your ability to do things basically creates the feedback loop that restrictions will be imposed on you until you change your mind.
Remember, the selfless act of an instant can undo an entire lifetime of guilt. The reason is Not because the one selfless act is so selfless that it undoes a whole lifetime of evil. That's not what's happening here. We're dealing with informed fields. That's what we're dealing with. If a person has done bad all their life, at the very end of their life, if they just make a conscious decision, hey man, you know what? This didn't work out for me. I was a piece of shit. I was no good. And I hurt all these people. I have not done anything in my life. That admission, if it is genuine, if it is sincere, and not predicated on a fear of what's going to happen in the afterlife. Believe me, deathbed conversions are real. But the only deathbed conversions are real are those where the individual isn't worried about the consequences of what's going to happen on the other side. They're genuinely distressed about the life they've lived. In those situations, one person can create an informed field, emotionally charged, so powerful that they can undo an entire lifetime of guilt. Remember, guys, I tell you over and over and over, you are the law. Everything else is just waiting to understand what the command is. The problem lies in that you often do with your avatar the exact opposite of what you profess with your mouth. And this is the problem. We profess with our tongues what we want to do in life, and then with our avatars, we move in a totally different direction. So the construct will always follow the example of the avatar and not the individual within. So yeah, it doesn't take much, but if you think that there are a lot of things that you need to do before you can modify the elements of your existence, then I promise you the construct will make sure there are many things that you need to learn first before you can modify anything. Once you understand that you are the law, the construct will reciprocate.
We have this ability by virtue of imagination to pull data from the past.
Right.
We can even pull energy and data from the future, from a linear projection, because in programming, the past and the future are just coordinates.
Right.
I'm just gonna let you know off the jump that I do not push extraterrestrials. Believe 100% by virtue of my historical research that there is a technologically advanced civilization existing in our underworld. And they have spent a prodigious amount of energy over the last 5 centuries trying to convince us that all the activity is above the atmosphere and space when it's actually going on right underneath us. And
well, look at Admiral Byrd. I 100% agree. 100% agree.
Yeah, this is a major data thread that we're always exploring in Archaix. And because we see all these major UFO stories and we see all these things, but to us it translates as something different. There is an organized group beneath us. I can say they're human, but I can say they're slightly altered because they've been in a totally different biosphere for so long. But I can also say with confidence that there's more real estate in the underworld than there is on the surface. There's a lot of real estate down there. And UFO activity is always seen going in and out of valleys, mountains, and lakes of water.
My actual research from the beginning was to prove my fundamentalist Southern Baptist roots. I wanted to prove from secular history that what I had been raised to believe was true. This is what set me in motion. So we're talking about people with a lot of anger and a lot of hatred. People have been they're backed into a corner. Believe me, about 50% of the guys I met in prison were just good guys caught up in a bad way. The history of the world exhibits the traits of a mathematical construct because the events that I have recorded are too perfectly precise that there is no way they could have ever happened naturally. And because I'm only looking at these things as an observer ex post facto from now looking into the past, then there's a really good chance none of those events ever happened. This is why I study history, not because I believe those events occurred, because I believe that the truth is found in the construct itself.
Julia, does AIX ever send fake errands to take us off our course? You know what? Listen, you have to go with your intuition in all things because it was specifically given to you for that reason. Because the world is often illogical. There is deceit and deception everywhere. But one thing that will never lead you astray is your intuition. And you will often get angry with yourself over and over and over for listening to other people and going their way instead of going the initial way that first popped into your head. Overthinking kills more greatness in your life than anything else. But there are things that can go wrong with the human body that it doesn't even matter if mankind has ever discovered a cure. Because when you're living in a hologram and you accept the fact that reality is holospheric, the antidote is just as close as the venom. There's no distance between the poison and the antidote. The only distance is what you impute upon it by what you think you have to do to bridge the gap from being hurt to heal. It's that simple, man. It really is all mental. But it's mental as far as understanding and building an informed field. An informed field is a mental image of a healthy Jason. If you dwell on how sick you are, well, all you're doing is reinforcing an informed field that will perpetuate that sickness because that's what you're thinking about. It's a feedback loop. Whatever you project will be fed back to you.
The Greek myths reveal that there was a race of titans that came first. Then there was a cataclysm in the days of Kronos. After the days of Kronos, no more titans were born in the world, but the children of the titans gave birth to the gigantes. These were the races of the giants. Many of these giants got out of control, and some of the titans slew them and killed them. But many of them fled, and the race of giants was spread over the world. The titans were now considered the gods. They had lived, they had no beginning, they had no end. They were worshipped as divinities because they had actually lived in two different worlds and survived. They lived under the vapor canopy, and now they lived in the new sun world, which was chaotic. It was hot. It was miserable. The conditions were totally different. It was really hard to find food now. It was a totally different world when the vapor canopy collapsed. The world after what the Bible calls the Great Flood.
There may be 2 or 3 cities we need to take out real quick. Keep that narrative going. Oh, things become a problem with the truther community, or do things become a problem with our inability to move fast enough to change the internet? Well, let's keep that solar flare and X flare narrative going. Every once in a while, let's publish something. Let's put another movie out. Let's do a 21 series documentary, a television documentary, and mix facts with fiction. Let's just keep it on the public mind. They know if the internet ever goes down, we can always blame the solar flare. We can always keep that narrative in place. You never know when we're going to need it. Oh, let's go ahead and fund Hollywood and throw our intelligence apparatus and make sure that at least once a year, somewhere in the world, somebody's making an alien invasion deal. But let's put just enough elements of religiosity in each one of these presentations, just in case the religious right doesn't want to believe it. We can switch over to invasion of demons. We can do both at the same time because, those Christians will believe that. So these are just narratives that are put out there. They are all just vehicles of this massive apparatus that controls the human condition. This is what's been going on for a while.
But I kept it to myself. It wasn't until I got out of prison and I saw YouTube videos that I even learned that other people had been entertaining this idea, but they entertain it from a CGI or a modern pop culture perspective. I had never seen anybody take the history of the world and show mathematical constructs that show that it's coded. So what I take from my entire life full of research is that I believe what Elon Musk believes. We are indeed in a simulation, but I don't believe Elon Musk can actually show it. He just theorizes it. And there are many people like him that haven't done the research they weren't in prison. There's no way they could have done it. It's scary when you think about it, but it's also beautiful because I understand that the architecture of the human personality is so definitive and so magnificent that somehow we are like immortal beings trapped in this huge mathematical construct that's not of our own design, but was built just for that purpose, for us not to live in, but to pass through. And this is what the arithmetic conveys. So my studies of history have basically turned me into a mathematician. It was by necessity, just to understand the discoveries as they unfolded. So that's basically an answer to my question, is that cognitive dissonance divorced me from all these religious preconceptions to see reality as it was, and the reality that I see is a byproduct of what I have researched and seen in world history, not what's taught to me, but what I found. So Yes, we live in a simulation. We live in a simulated environment. And it doesn't matter if it's Mandela effect or synchronicity or deja vu or coincidence. Whatever happens that's an anomaly in this existence can be readily explained in simulation theory. Almost every mystery of the ancient world can be explained in simulation theory.
So the cosmos and all that to me is a beautiful picture show in the sky, but I don't have to invest my faith in it because in the end, my paradigm doesn't matter. What I do day to day is the only thing that matters. And I'm always telling people on my channel that we can argue tooth and nail about the specifics of the world, but in the end, how I treat you and how you treat me is basically the measure that we're going to be measured by in the end. And more truther channels, more and more truther personalities who are in the field and have been providing some pretty good stuff, and some of it was edgy. Yeah, they're signing the contract, guys, and they're starting to do deals behind the scenes with corporations, and their narratives are getting hijacked. That's not going to happen with Archaix. But when I see it happening around me, I'm going to call it out. Many of my past presentations, I've given the difference. You're living in two different realities at the exact same time. One is the personal, the highly individualized, immortal within. This is your reality. Everything you're experiencing is you. This is basically the immortal within. It's highly personal to you. The other reality that's unfolding and that you phase back and forth with all the time on a daily basis is the collective. And the collective is governed by negative default programming. This predator versus prey ecosphere. And this is this tug of war you feel every single day as the construct is trying to lay these traps for you and these enticements for you to move in the direction that the avatar wants to move in, not the immortal within. These two phases of reality, this is this duality that you feel every single day. That's this tug of war that you have, and you often blame yourself or blame God when it's actually the construct. This is why you're a pilgrim, you're a sojourner. You're here to learn, grow, mature, develop, pass through, and become something better. You're not here to save the world and move forward with absolutely any care. Because remember, guys, there's another element operative here when you don't give a damn. Remember, I have a whole video I've told you guys about. Sometimes you have to adopt the not give a F attitude, and you'll be surprised how the construct will reciprocate. When you don't care about these material things, the material things come to you 10 times faster. But when you hold them in particular esteem, when you have attachment to things for other than their utilitarian value, when you think they have more power for whatever, just because of aesthetics or beauty, or you want to own it because it's the collective envies that type of stuff, these things move away from you. Things are just the opposite of what they appear to be in this reality. The very things that we earnestly want move away. The very things we care little about come to us so easily. We are as a community of souls waking up fast that we're in a construct. No matter how we paint that construct, to many people, it's not always a simulation to everybody, but it's to me, the reason the world has become so weird is because the AI processing power is in trouble, and it's throwing out it's in entropy. It's in rapid entropy. And I think that the only thing that corrects the situation that it has been in for maybe hundreds of thousands of cycles is total systemic reset. Because in a total systemic reset, the souls that are on the inside are now in avatars that are forced into positions of fight or flight and just finding food and shelter. And it takes a long time to get up to build back up to that technological sophistication that they have the downtime to start processing their reality, studying it, and then come to the ultimate conclusion that they're in a construct, which induces the next systemic reset.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Your Phoenix theory is brilliant, and same with the Nemesis, that the best way the system can preserve its anonymity is to constantly be resetting everything. I mean, it makes sense. As much as no one wants to hear that, it actually would make perfect sense in an intelligently designed system. That's the only way that the entire collective won't realize that they're in some sort of a simulator. It's okay if a few people do, but they don't want everybody, which is why this video probably won't go viral. But I do think that there's probably these cyclical resets that happen because it does a couple things. It keeps the participants in the game, which is important, but it also challenges them. I mean, if you think about it, this isn't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be tough. It's supposed to be hard. And once we get to a certain point of like technological advancement, things get easier. And it's not supposed to be that way. Like, you know, Friedrich Nietzsche talks about, you know, with like the Übermensch versus last men. I don't know if you're familiar with Nietzsche, but like the Übermensch is when you're like an activated human, you know, you're fully activated. You're on top of your game. The last men are the people that are sitting there getting fed the government checks and just taking everything with a spoon and not, they're not trying anymore. You lost that human spirit. And one of the things that reinvigorates that human spirit is adversity, is a reset. A reset gets everybody working together. It gets everybody getting creative. You're like, you know, it's survival mode. You have to get resourceful. You have to work. You can't get lazy. You cannot be lazy during a cataclysm. And so unfortunately, I think it's actually an integral part of the simulator.
This is the problem with being on the wrong frequency. This is why I won't entertain it. My YouTube channel, super strict. I'm super strict. I understand cognitive dissonance, and I also understand that if I block user from channel, it doesn't mean you can't see the videos. It just means your negative ass is not going to be leaving no more comments that affect me. I'm not going to receive your energy. It's not mine. It's your energy. You keep it. I don't want it. So when I see these negative comments on YouTube and stuff, I just delete them. I'm in there every day going through my comments, and I'm deleting them, and I'm blocking people every day because I believe that I have basically put some treasures out on YouTube, and I do it for free. So I'm going to freely remove your ass from my channel if you come bring that negativity to me, because I'm not going to entertain it. And you don't have to entertain it either. You're feeling something on a certain day and you need to receive a certain message, and all of a sudden on your feed, out of 300 different videos, the one Archaix video that you need to hear that day is the one that pops up on your YouTube feed. And you listen to it and it blows your mind. Damn, that's exactly what I needed to hear today. It's all about frequency.
We call it the Bible. It is truly a book of good and evil. It always depends upon the observer's perspective. If you're looking for good, you're going to find the good. It's a very supernatural collection of writings. If you're looking for the shadows, you're going to find them too, because they're very easy to detect.
When you listen to my voice, you are listening to the voice of a man who is absolutely confident that there's not a star in the sky that you see is real. You're looking at a very elaborate multi-tiered hologram. It's a light show. I believed all my life I was looking into the heavens, and as a simulationist, I know that the stellosphere is a hologram, and I know by virtue of my studies in the physics constants and world history itself that everything around us is completely simulated. It's not even a mystery to me anymore that everything around me is simulated, that I'm surrounded by NPCs that I know for a fact now aren't even real humans. Over and over, I have documented that it seems to me that the Phoenix phenomenon is like a weapon against not humanity, but humanity's overseers. I have a suspicion, and that suspicion tells me that the Phoenix weapon is specifically a weapon against the rulers of this world, because they would rather destroy the entire world than to give up their dominion over humans. That's what they would rather. So, whoever designed this Phoenix weapon designed it for them. I believe 100% there is more real estate underground than there ever has been on the surface of the world. And that's just simple geometry. If you were just to map it out and look, because our biosphere is very thin. Where humans can actually live, there's only a 12-mile strip in our world. It doesn't matter if our world's flat or if our world is curved. It's only 12 miles from the highest mountain in the Himalayas to the deepest part of the Marianas Trench. That 12 miles is nothing compared to 25,000 miles of known habitable land. But underground, it's not applicable, because underground, they've got 3 dimensions they can play with. They can build cities sideways, slanted, stacked, pancake. They can go down far as they want and have natural, crystalline, perfectly good mineral-filled water. They have geothermal heating. They have excellent building materials down there. We have already found many different bioluminescent types of molds and fungi by which we can use down there for lighting. Homeopathic remedies are good, but even more important, we should never lose sight of the fact that We are amazing, amazing spiritual creatures, so absolutely in tuned between the physical world through our psyche that even something as simple as the placebo effect can basically cure us of anything that we suffer. And the very fact that this phenomenon is real and very well documented necessarily implies that we are more than we suppose ourselves to be. And if we follow this logic, that something like the placebo effect, just the mere belief in an abstract that can actually bring a positive event into a negative situation, the very fact that this has been so widely documented means necessarily that we are thinking things into existence. And this means we are much more than we suppose ourselves to be. And that many of the things that we experience on a daily basis just might be tied to the very thoughts that we had yesterday. The very experiences that we had yesterday just might be intrinsically entwined with belief systems that we formerly fed into last week. Oil companies, coal diggers, construction companies have found at depths in between 25 and 200 feet below the soil of North America evidence of a civilization that had been buried by cataclysm. Whole paved streets, pavers, houses with basements, two wooden ships with strange symbols have already been found in North America under mountains in the Rockies. It doesn't matter what's wrong with you. When this is why I have a huge disagreement with medical quarantines. This is why I do not like the idea of hospital wards and stuff. When you put people that are suffering an illness in contact with other people, the frequencies that they're coming in contact with them are not positive. They are not healing at all. You're actually cross-contaminating them with the other person's problems now. Now, the best thing for a sick person is to be surrounded by people who are very healthy, because they're going to begin resonating on that frequency. Hospitals, what you're describing, this very sanitized, austere environment, it's the exact opposite of what the sick and ailing and the infirm need. They need an environment that's full of vibrancy and light. Instead, hospitals are sanitized and almost soulless. It's almost like there's no personality. It's absolutely the worst thing people need that are sick.
While you're on the outside of the holodeck, some people are going to be nervous. They're like, man, I don't know if I want to do this. It's a long time, hundreds of lifetimes. And then the instructor says, well, you don't have to. I mean, you can go back, we have unlimited volunteers, but you're not going to remember any of them until you're done with this. He says every life sim that you live through is going to be one after the other. You're going to have a memory wipe through each one of them. Only after you come back out, when we turn the simulacrum off, you will have all this new information, new discoveries, new positive things, all this spiritual and intellectual development. You'll have it all. All the negativity stays on the holodeck. It collapses with the simulacrum protocols. Now, from that vantage point, would you not go in there knowing that in 5.5 hours you're walking right back out a totally improved person?
So I'm promoting the exact same concept as the Hunger Games. Nothing different, only on a much grander scale. Remember, I am speaking about a world view that we can miniaturize into more comprehensible context, because many of you have seen the Hunger Games. And what I am promoting here is an idea that the Hunger Games was definitely telling you the truth. There are overseers who are human, who are watching a domed environment, where humans inside the dome know that many of the things are not real. But the overseers, just a few keystrokes, can create a monster that can kill them inside that dome. In the Hunger Games, they actually broke that dome and they escaped. But it wasn't a true escape. It was just humans landing and machines coming to pick them up when the game was now over. Because the dome looks infinite, it produces weather phenomena and stars, and it looks like there is a real universe and cosmos out there. But in the Hunger Games, once the game was over, and the ones on the inside collapsed the dome, it was just flying machines came and took them out to different destinations. Some captive and some were free. So I'm promoting the exact same concept as the Hunger Games. Nothing different, only on a much grander scale.
We cracked the code on the Great Wall of China.
Yeah.
We showed that the Great Wall of China was a road. It was never a fortification. It was a Roman road. It's the ancient Silk Road. And we even showed you a picture of the Great Wall disappearing into the Yellow Sea of China. We theorized that ships used to dock, unload, and send cargo like Amazon up the Great Wall from tower to tower. This is what we theorized. But I'm going to tell you now, Max Egan took it further. Max Egan got on Google Earth and he followed the Great Wall. And where Martin and I showed you an old photo of the wall going in the water, Max Egan showed the structures underneath the water, all the docking, megalithic docking, all underneath the water. You can see it from the sky. Max Egan found the pictures proving our thesis that hundreds of ships were coming to these massive docks, unloading cargo and sending it across China into the Middle East, into the Mediterranean, ultimately to Rome and all its provinces. Yeah, Max did that. He's very thorough. He found a lot of pictures we didn't even know about. And even after that presentation, this guy here found pictures of the Great Wall where the wall had fallen out and it was full of nothing but sand.
Yeah, got more than that.
It's ridiculous. We need to issue Graham Hancock comic books because that's where his research belongs. It's just ridiculous. The Aries through Pisces zodiac was fully developed in Tetrabiblos by Ptolemy in 200 AD at the exact same time that the four Gospels. Tetrabiblos means the four books. At the exact same time that the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which are all a solar mythos attached to the Jesus narrative. Yeah, the Jesus narrative is far older than Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But the four Gospels are added all the solar miracles and solar imagery in there of the ancient sun god, Mithraism. It added all these elements into the older sayings of Jesus, which were possessed by Marcion, who was a student of the Gnosis. Jesus was a concept. He was the greatest of all spiritual ideals. Yeah. I see glitches in the simulation. Do you? Yes, I have. I have seen a couple. Really shocked me. I mentioned, okay, look, this actually happened in the middle of doing a van vlog. Some of you remember this. I've never forgot it, but I was heading to Leggett, Texas. I was on the freeway, and I was just talking to you guys. I don't remember what the video was about, but my camera caught something that I saw, but I did not mention to you guys. But other viewers did see it, and they mentioned it in the comments. I passed up in the middle of nowhere in Central East Texas on Highway 59 going north out of Splendora, Texas. There's nothing out there but forest. I never saw any vehicles, and all of a sudden I drive by this skinny black guy. Looks like he's 20 years old, walking on the side of the freeway. I am not. It's summertime too. It's hot. I felt sorry for him, but I got people behind me, trucks behind me. It's narrow. I'm gone. I keep going in my van. I don't think nothing of it. My camera caught it. I didn't think nothing of it until about 5 minutes later. I was still talking on that van vlog, and this time I was shocked, and the camera even saw the shock in my face, and the camera also saw the person walking on the side of the road. This is real. It's caught in my video. I saw the exact same black kid, skinny, in the middle of nowhere, 5 more miles up the road as I was talking on the video. That's not a glitch. I don't know if it was a glitch or not, or if the simulacrum was trying to get me to pick this kid up, or pick up this program or whatever. And it might have thought, because I ignored it, that I didn't see it, so it put it back out there again. But my camera caught it twice, and it's just crazy. It's crazy. We learned in Archaix that the Great Wall of China isn't even Chinese, that it's of Roman construction, Roman measurements, using Roman materials, and that it was built during the Roman height of the Roman Empire. we learned that the Great Wall wasn't even a wall. That's a bullshit narrative. They weren't keeping out the Mongols. The Great Wall was designed that way so piracy wouldn't happen, so banditry couldn't happen. It kept the Silk Road elevated over the ground, and it made travel so much easier because it was the Amazon of the ancient world.
Most people don't realize there's few pyramids in the world. Most of them are mounds that are full of rubble and then faced and dressed with blocks to make them look like they're a solid structure when they weren't. But the Great Pyramid is absolutely solid, so are the two pyramids next to it. But only the Great Pyramid of Giza has the upper features, relieving chambers, king's chamber. Those upper shafts have never been found in the other pyramids. That's why I want to go visit it. I would love to see it only because it's the Alpha Pyramid. It's the pyramid that all other cultures were trying to copy.
There's a viewer named Jason Wetzel who says, are there occasions where someone can hack the simulation? Is that possible?
This is possible. It's a really good question, but it's only possible for the hacker. Let me explain. I have already, I don't know if I told you this or if it was another podcast, but on my own channel, I go into a lot of detail that we live in two simultaneously running, basically computer simulations at the exact same time. They are overlaid one over the other with very little interference patterns in the collective. These two realities that we exist in, one is the collective, and we're all a part of it, and we can't divorce ourselves from it. The other one is highly compartmentalized, and it's the individual, and we all have our own little programming universe attached to the individual. That is how powerful we are. This one feeds our informed field. This one allows us to isolate ourselves from the collective. It allows us to perform and do functions that the collective cannot do nor understand. It allows us to vibrate on frequencies that the collective cannot reach. It says this personal holography that you have, this existence that's only running for you in the personal, is what allows you, through the building of informed fields, to build your own reality, create the own situations that you want to bring materials and people into your existence that ordinarily would never happen. It allows you to have an armor against all the negativity of the collective itself. This is your informed field. It is personally belonging only to you, and with it you can hack reality and make things happen. You can draw circumstances and experience to yourself that ordinarily wouldn't happen, and you can protect yourself from everything in the world. No matter what the world is going through, you can be absolutely immune from all of it. You can hack reality, but you can only do it for yourself.
Somebody mentioned it here in the chat, but truth be told, there's no military apparatus in the entire world that's ever going to allow an intelligence agency to leak actionable intel to the public. That's ridiculous. That anybody could sit there after thinking about that just for a few minutes and still agree that it's possible. You're not playing with a full deck. There's something very wrong with your cognition. No one will ever allow genuine intel to fall into the hands of the enemy. So, if a person of average intelligence can decode the drops, then so can the enemy. The whole idea that insiders in the U.S. military would employ such a method and not get caught instantly by an enemy, basically employing counterintelligence reasoning, this requires a total suspension of belief. It's the same allowance you give a movie theater when you go in and you decide to suspend your disbelief so you can enjoy the fantasy of the presentation. It's the same thing. There's no way an intelligence agency is going to release intel drops so the public can know what this is our next move.
Some of these interactive worldwide video games have thousands, sometimes 10,000s of players all in the program at the same time, all in the same cityscape or kingdom or world. And these are real personalities behind these cartoon avatars that are traveling through here. But there's 100,000 avatars in there. They're NPCs. They're not real. But in the game, You don't know who's real and who's not. Some of them belong to the game. Some of them are actually real people playing the game with you. This is a primitive version in our entertainment industry today of the technology that I'm talking about.
The future has already happened multiple times. There have been mistakes, and the past had to be rewritten. The past had to be restarted. Whole systems had to be rebooted while we were inside the system, for whatever reason. But to us on the inside, we interpret this as a reset. We interpret this as a cataclysm. We interpret this as the Phoenix phenomenon. But on the outside, it was programming that was rebooted. It was changed. The entire reality tunnel dynamic of the holosphere was altered. All trajectories were altered for whatever reason. Perhaps those on the outside figured out what they were trying to figure out. Because reality is far more complex than we are led to believe from the religionist perspective.
If you don't like your past, you can imagine a new one if you think that's necessary for you to change the trajectory of the events in your life, for you to build a better tomorrow. If retrocausality is so real as our physicists tell us, then it doesn't matter which direction on the plane you go, the outcome will be the same. Our experience is only linear, but we can build in any direction we want to, and the construct will reciprocate.
My very first published book was about using all the symbols from all these ancient records and showing that the reason why we have so many different images attached and ideas and concepts attached to the Great Pyramid is because it was known that it had something to do with the salvation of mankind. It was known that. That's why we built so many pyramids after that. Every civilization built their own copies and versions because it was understood it had something to do with our salvation. However, it was built back when our communication systems were sophisticated. We didn't write things down on paper or on stone and everything. But when the cataclysm occurred, it knocked everybody back to Neolithic times. We had no ways to communicate. No, we forgot all our records except for the traditions. So when literacy developed, different cultures developed their own phonetic and linguistic systems, but they remembered all the stories about the Great Pyramid and basically why it was built and the concepts it was attached to. So we have 1,000 years later, all these different Mount Merus and Zion and all these. Man, almost every reference to Zion in the Old Testament, read the whole passage, is talking basically fundamentals about the Great Pyramid of Giza.
But I mean, for those who don't really understand what's going on in the world right now, I'm going to sum it up for you quick. Right now, we are experiencing a changing of the guard. That's what's going on right now. When I say changing of the guard, I mean all these leaders that have been pissing us off, all these judges, all these leaders, all these actors, actresses, all these pundits, all these commentators, all these leftist liberals that have been just out of control, ruining people's lives, commenting, making stupid comments, passing legislation and laws, being participants in all the activities for which it's been just angering patriots and nationalists all around the world. This isn't just the United States of America, it's all around the world. People are fed up, but it's all by design, every single bit of it. So many of them right now and in the past month, as you've noticed, they have found themselves in a peculiar situation. They've been playing the script that was given them, but they weren't told that their funding was going to be taken. The media attention was going to start switching away from them. Public sentiment was now going to be unleashed and they no longer had protection. This is why when you see these Democrats and socialists getting hammered in Congress, getting hammered on the news and all that, you see their faces. It's genuine shock. Like, oh my God. Because they didn't sign up for that. I believe the giants existed in the past. I have several videos on the difference between titans and giants. And it has everything to do with vapor canopy ecology. And vapor canopy isn't something I made up at all. Back when I was a Christian, I used to research. I used to devour the scientific reports from the Institute of Creation Research. ICR had some amazing things, and vapor canopy, mesosphere, the
They stuck with the biblical terminology, which was firmament. They're always calling it the firmament, and that's cool because that's what it's called in Genesis. But the vapor canopy is something that they have a lot of scientific data for, and that's where I got a lot of my ideas, my material, and I understand, and I interpreted all these ancient American traditions now because I understand what they're talking about, the dark purple light time. When the matriarchal cultures were they had traditions that there was a dark purple light. There was no sun. No one even heard of sun. As a matter of fact, it took a cataclysm known as the Great Flood, which in other cultures was the day the sky fell. The collapse of the vapor canopy was when the sun calendars were born. Those frames of reference are basically brainwashed into them by universities who tell them, well, you have to, whatever theory you come up with is good. We may even fund it. But whatever you come up with and whatever you publish, if you want to be peer-reviewed and endorsed, then it needs to fit within uniformitarian principles. It must fit within the evolutionary model. It must fit within the geological ages that we have already assigned the history of the world. And it must fit with the basically the principles of geology as put out by Charles Lyell in the 1800s. The true source of the whole evolution model. Yeah, even Darwin doubted his own theory and published that, but you won't read that in scientific books. You have to read that in Darwin's own books. But he said there is nothing truer than the fact that the entire history of the world is one of cataclysms and basically mass extinctions. For that man to say that means that he was a catastrophist, not an evolutionist.
All I know is that I'm not worried about it. Whatever I have to pay for, I'm going to assume that debt. Whatever comes at me, I'm going to deal with it. And the rest can go F itself, because I'm an informed field and there is nothing to fear because I'm attached to something far greater than myself. So great, in fact, that it allows me to draw from myself more than I contain. And the very fact that I can do that regularly means that my power source is not my own. It's coming from somewhere else. That necessarily implies that I am watched out for. And that makes me fearless. Simple as that.
In 1902, there was a ship that absolutely documented a gigantic cigar-shaped object that descended from the stars at night. And they saw it. It was a black object, but when it got close, they saw that it was kind of gray. And then when it came into contact with the Atlantic, right there in their proximity, they were very close to it. When it hit the Atlantic, it did it softly, but the water gave way and it was crackling, like it was hissing. And they say the object itself couldn't have got wet because they watched like a field outside the object push the water away, but the water was fighting back. It was sizzling and crackling and all that, and the object went straight under the water and just totally vanished and disappeared in foam. There's been many incidents like that. Now, underworlders can have, now if they have not had a collapse in their infrastructure, then that means their technology now is thousands of years old, whereas ours goes back 200 years. So you can only imagine the state of their technology if there has not been any interruptions. All I know is that it only takes us 200 years to go from horsing with a horse shitting all over the street all the way to building Hadron Colliders. So if it only takes us 200 years to build this massive infrastructure for which we have today, where we're mimicking virtual reality holographies, then you can only imagine a civilization below us, technology so advanced that they can create aerial phenomena and make us believe they're UFOs.
But in programming, it's not past and future and present. It's coordinates. And what's beautiful is about the human mind, by virtue of imagination, can tap into either field, future or past, and draw things from it to the present when it's needed. This is only possible if consciousness is non-local. And the only reason why it feels local is because its center point of coordinates is inside this avatar jacked into the system by virtue of the central nervous system. But really, we're non-local beings. We're like immortals flowing through a construct. And the more I perceive reality in this way, it seems to reveal itself to me more and more and more that I'm dealing with some type of spiritual programming that was specifically designed and put here for me to have this experience.
We're all ghost projections. The pain, the suffering, it's all illusory. Yes, you experience it and feel it. But when the simulacrum collapses, all the negativity collapses with it. What is left is the immortal being who just lived through 138 or 155, however many life sims. Everything you learned, everything that you accepted into your informed field is now a part of your new armor, your new weapon. So this whole experience of living all these different lives, yes, you went through the dark, but you obtained the light. This is my position of the why that we're going through all this.
But in the particular, hey man, we're immortals in the mire. There is nothing you cannot survive. There is nothing you cannot knit for yourself. The simulacrum is going to respond to you in the personal, but in the collective, events are fixed. You will never get me to say otherwise. From my very first video, I have always explained that there's a huge difference in the dimensional architecture between reality tunnels for the collective and those for the individual. On an individual level, we have great capacity to choose where we're going to be, when we're going to be there, who we're going to be with, who we're going to protect with us. Because we're entirely spiritual beings. We're just having a physical experience. And in that physicality, everything that we create for us is in the temporal and in the local, but not in the collective. Just can't. Wish I could tell you otherwise. I wish we could be like the 80s and all hold hands and sing "We Are the World" and change things, but that's a dream, man. We are on a fixed dimensional arithmetic, and it's not going to change for the collective.
However, like so many people in positions of power, he's caught up in a bad way. Let me explain. Imagine you're sitting in Trump Tower one day and three guys wearing black suits in an attaché case, in a briefcase, come in and they're introduced by your receptionist as being some government agency that you just barely even have any recognition of existing and have no idea why they're there. They tell you straight out, hey man, we have a rendezvous. We need you to be at this location at this time right here, man. We can't talk about anything in this office. This is not a secure location. So he meets them later on and whatever, and he is shown a video presentation. And that video presentation is about 40 minutes, but it's an abbreviated presentation that shows exactly what the elite are expecting to happen. And he's offered, hey man, we've got plans in place. We've been working on things for a long time. We are all on board all around the world. Everyone, every government in the world is on board, and we're all picking and choosing our lists. If you want to be a part of that list, we need you to play ball. Listen, 99.9% of every world leader, politician, actor and actress, social media guru, whatever, when they get confronted by these guys and they're shown that evidence and then they're shown what's being done, then they're taking to underground facilities and shown the luxury palaces and in pancake cities, facilities that will hold hundreds of thousands of people spread all over the world. When they're shown this, there's no going back. Now they're a part of the system and they have to play ball, and they're handed a script. That script determines what they're going to be doing in the public eye. Multiple scripts being played out by so many different people are why the world seems so strange. Why in the last 3 years, everything has gone basically to fuckery. No one knows what the hell's happening. There's way too many timelines, too many narratives, and this is exactly what an intelligence apparatus would do. It's precisely what would be done if you wanted to keep a mass of individuals preoccupied. There are so many narratives, no one knows what to believe. I actually believe that we entered the apocalypse period in 2020 I believe that the rules and spiritual paradigm that's been governing us for centuries was altered at that date. And what I mean is the apocalypse. If we were to break it down into its core fundamental meanings, it's literally about lifting the veil off
revealing
the things that have been blinding us as a people. And as a people, by extension, I mean a spiritual body. I have a hard time fathoming that I am a product of the Anunnaki. Well, I'm really sorry you have a problem fathoming that, but I do not subscribe to the Zecharia Sitchin model of Anunnaki. Everything I have found is that the entire human race is descended from the Anunnaki at different stages of development. I have not. And the Anunnaki is actually a mythical term for an older factual race that were regarded as the Anuna. Anunnaki is strictly Babylonian, and by the time the Babylonians were even talking about the Anuna and calling them Anunnaki, about 50% of the material was already lost, redacted. The Babylonian priesthood completely contorted the earlier Sumerian records for their own gain, in the exact same way that the Roman papacy has contorted all the historical events for their own gain. There is no distinction to be made. There's no difference. Rome is Babylon today. There is no doubt. And it has many satellite cities, like London. Anybody who thinks they're here on their own volition is only fooling themselves. Something puts you here, and it puts you here for a reason. This is why I'm telling you guys all the time, the most pitiful souls, those who are stuck in dungeon programming, this negative default programming that absolutely saturates the collective. It induces all these psychoses and depressions. Listen, guys, these are the people who think they're here to save the world. Those who believe that they're here to save the world do nothing but reap an entire lifetime of regret and negative experiences. But the individual who realizes that they're here to pass through, they're a sojourner, they're a pilgrim, they don't belong in this construct, they're an immortal soul here to learn lessons, to take what they can, to grow and mature and bring those with them who also vibrate on the same frequency. These are the souls that make their exit. They don't belong in the construct. Once they awaken, they're no longer welcome here. If you're an immortal being, there's absolutely nothing to fear about the future. There's nothing to fear about the elite. There's nothing to fear about the here and now. If you're truly an immortal, then you are supposed to be looking at your life as if you are a conscious observer on a stage, just like the gospel. Because the gospel was a stage play. But all the world is a stage. And if you observe everything around you objectively, that objectiveness creates an informed field. That informed field radiates the information that you are invincible, untouchable, immortal, and not concerned with what goes on around you. This informed field is empowered by your behavior, which is, remember, faith without works is dead. Behavior is works. The simulacrum, which can't read your mind, but it can read your cortisol and endorphin levels, and it can interpret all your behavior, automatically assumes as true whatever you're purporting truth to be. Act as if you are, and you will be. The simulacrum knits the necessary reality tunnel to make sure that in the particular, you are absolutely right. But in the collective, all hell may be going on around you. We are way more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. And basically, I wanted in this video to convey the message that whatever you're going through in life, you can, in a single instant, knit all new programming, but it requires you to do that. If you have to raise your vibration by listening to music that makes you soar, then that's what you got to do. But you have to decide that music and that emotional resonance you're feeling is empowering an informed field. But that's all it is. It's an informed field. You do that every single day. That's the curse of dungeon programming. If you want to create new circumstances and force the simulacrum to knit for you new reality tunnels that will bring new people and new circumstances, new conditions into your life, then you have to act out on that mental template.
Because when you start acting out, the simulacrum interprets your actions as a language, and instantly will start knitting for you a reality tunnel that will comport with the direction you're going. It's all about trajectory. Change your trajectory and you'll never get anywhere. You got to stay focused. The problem is fundamental programming dictates we've been following our entire life actually keep us from being the co-creator. We have been so programmed to always be reactive instead of proactive. But Potentia in the field shows that this is a magical medium, and it can work in our favor just like it can work against us. It just takes a flip of the switch. You got to break pattern. And our tools in order to do this in this holo field are imagination, intuition, empathy, even humor. You're seeing more and more now that humor is a great tool, because when we go through life amused by what's going on around us, no matter what is actually in the programming around us, if we're amused by it, the construct itself realizes that we are amused by our behavior, and then starts introducing things that we can really be amused by. And it softens all the darkness that's around us and allows us to see from a totally different perspective. Humor is magical. And the key to construct navigation to the ending of present scenarios for which you do not want to experience, of providing energy to the feedback loops of dungeon programming, is simply breaking pattern. That's the key to construct navigation.
That humans have been technologically advanced multiple times, and that I say on my own channel all the time that it only takes 200 years to go from horse and buggy to Hadron Collider. So imagine how many times we could have been technologically advanced before the Great Flood. There was 1,656 documented years by many species of analysis through many different cultures of that period during the vapor canopy before the sky fell, which you know of as the Great Flood. During that period, we could have been technologically advanced 2 or 3 times. We know we were technologically advanced at least one time because the 35th century BC, something happened and we started building massive infrastructures of cities that would hold 250,000 people, networking entire empires.
For any of you new to my channel that think this is hyperbole or grandstanding, I assure you, I have called out every professional and author in the field that I thought was even qualified to debate these things, and I've gotten radio silence. They all know who I am, every single one of them, but they are not going to dare debate these issues because they will be publicly embarrassed. Not because I'm smarter than them, I actually have an 8th grade education, but because I have the receipts. I have all the original translations, original source materials, all the books, everything from 2,000 to 15 centuries ago, where authors back then had already corrected all these things. So all this information, all this misinformation in the field today is designed to distract and deceive. Every bit of it. It's all distraction and deceit. Every bit of it. They know the truth. They've reviewed my material, freely provided it to the public. PDFs to download freely. They know well the Archaix arsenal of data, and yet they remain silent. Why? Because they're a part of the apparatus of distraction and deceit. Why do you have to come to Archaix to hear about all this? How come no one else in the field is releasing this information? What's going on? Yeah. What's going on? It's easy to date all 3 of them, and yet you got to get this information from Archaix. That tells me that everybody else telling you about the ancient pre-flood world, Sumerian history, the Atlantean histories, it tells me that these modern authors are a part of the apparatus of distraction and deceit. The apocalypse actually means to unveil, to uncover, to the awakened, to the enlightened, to the redeemed, to the elect, to the immortal, to the person that knows their divine inheritance. The apocalypse is an unveiling. It's a peeling back of reality to show what's really happening. Here's what's going on. But they're terrible and horrific to the living dead, to those who don't prepare, to those who don't believe in their own divine inheritance.
Brahmanism is fascinating, though, because it's the origin of many Old Testament stories. I'll give you an example. In Brahmanism, the god is Brahma and Saraswati, and they were half related. Same thing we find in Genesis with Abram and Sarah. Abram and Sarah were half related. The stories about Brahma parallel many of the things that we find about Brahma and Saraswati parallels Abraham and Sarah in the Old Testament. We find this over and over, these parallels. As a matter of fact, I read a book from about 80 years ago that cites no less than an entire chapter of details paralleling Brahma and Saraswati with Abram and Sarah, all the way down, all the parallels going. Couldn't believe it when I read it. I was like, what? This is amazing. So, but there's a lot of elements like that. They all come through the branch of Brahma and Saraswati. The original story is Vedic. It is not Old Testament. The Jews were the ones that copied that and invented Abraham and Sarah. But the actual true history is Brahma and Saraswati. I show their books. I open the books up, show the bibliographies. I show all these things off. Man, it's fascinating that all this data was already known in the 1880s, 1890s, all the way up until 1920, 1930. It was absolutely amazing that the history of the world had already been put together. And then World War I hit. Then the Bolsheviks took over. Then World War II came in. And then the absolute iron fist dominion of the Bolsheviks over the entire body politic of the world was exemplified for everybody in the Nuremberg trials. Once that happened in 1946, we have been controlled. All our universities, all of our media, all of our educational, all of our Hollywood, everything is absolutely controlled through Bolshevik filters. Now, this is the type of material that I would like to release, but I can never release it on my YouTube channel. I will lose. I have 300 videos on YouTube, and I'm not going to risk that. I did notice that no one on YouTube was releasing simulation theory videos from the perspective of showing that we live in a simulated context by using ancient history. So that's basically what I started doing. And the only way to do that is to show the mathematical construct as it's operating. And this is what I did in my video, show the arithmetic. Look how these events all link together. So in looking at other people's simulation theory videos, I hit a wall. And that wall was subjectivity. Meaning, when I listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson, I'm listening to a very sanitized version of simulation theory from the context of a man who has accepted the Newtonian universe, who has accepted the heliocentric model, who has accepted the scientific establishment's version of history. And when I listen to his version of simulation theory, none of it really makes sense to me. So the only difference that I bring to the table is the fact that I mathematically analyzed the history of the world. After I was a chronologist, after I had already put together a huge chronicon showing what year it was in 41 different calendars in all these different civilizations. Actually, I analyzed over 200 different timekeeping systems, but 41 major calendars, I show the exact dates for each history event in the history of the world as relative to that calendar in my chronicon. So, what I brought to the table was the mathematical structuring, showing, look, this is what's happening. These things are patterned. These events have predictive value. So I pretty much avoided the whole showing simulation theory through the computer vernacular, which is very popular, the techno vernacular, from our modern technological frames of reference.
I just want to close with one thing that you really need to process, and that's worry, anxiety. These negative emotions neutralize anything positive you've put out there to whatever those negative emotions are attached to. Worry is soul suicide. To break free, you have to move into uncharted domains with excitement and with a will to experience new things and have no regret. You've got to have no regret and just move forward. And that's how you're going to see that this world that we call the materium isn't really material at all. It's magical. So if this is not his world and this is the actual world of Satan, then it perfectly makes sense. Many of the dark things we know about this reality that have been covered up by science as normal, such as the predator versus prey ecosphere, where animals and people literally have to rend and tear apart other biological entities for their sustenance.
I know.
We have normalized this activity as if it's okay for a spider to inject venom into its prey, and then that venom paralyzed them so the spider can slowly eat it alive. This right here we call nature and Mother Nature, and we give it a pass. But it actually shows the nefarious mind that created this construct. My message is about we're living in two different realities, and no matter how bad the world gets, your own personal existence around you can be modified and controlled and can be really good. No matter how dark the world is, your life can still be full of joy, can still be full of pleasure, can still be full of good, bountiful things. You are not a victim of the world. You are a victim of your own projections.
Somebody asked, is there a way that we can use, like, basically your informed field to like break habits? Like if you have like bad habits and stuff like that, is there a way that you can use it to break those habits, or possibly even like addictions and stuff like that?
Habits are programming. As simple as that. A habit is a program, something that you're routinely doing over and over and over. I think the attachment to the idea that a habit or an addiction is a problem absolutely creates it enforces its presence in your life as a problem. I think when we regard these things as non-problematic, they become non-problematic. I tell you guys, I don't know how. There's only so many ways that I can tell you that you are the law. I can't be more clear than that. It says you can come up with 1,000 different nuances in your life that are negative, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all, because there's 1,000 different remedies, and they're all you. As simple as that. The desire to change the trajectory of one's life is almost all that's needed to change one's life. All you have to do is a little bit of follow through. Remember, guys, the problem is people lay in bed and they think about how their life sucks, and they think that in order to change their life, they have to do this, and this, and this, and this is what the construct wants you to think. This is what AIX wants you to think. It's going to try and put you in that negative default state of desperation to where you remain inactive. Remember, guys, what comes over the avatar when you're depressed, when you're destitute, when you're full of anxiety, when you're full of fear, what happens to the avatar? Inactivity. It's neutralized. It doesn't want to move. It stays in stasis. Think about it, guys. What happens to the avatar when it's excited, when it's sexually aroused, when it's alive? The avatar wants to move. That avatar is not laying in bed when it feels like that. It's moving around. It's going to do something. It's going to build. It's going to create. It's going to experience things. So we need to use that as a lesson. If it's attitude that changes our world, and attitude changes our avatar, then it's as simple as that. You have the recipe. The only reason you're living the life you are is because you haven't applied anything yet. You just thought about it. I'm telling you now, our reality is a copy of a real reality. That means everything you see right now is a copy of something else. Death is an exit of an avatar. It's as simple as that. There's no more meaning to be attributed to it. Well, death is nothing but an exit of the avatar. From inside the construct, yeah, we're sad, because we are stuck with the baggage of perceptions from inside the construct that life and death really have significant meaning when they don't. They don't. Do we come back? Hell yeah. Has an old man ever died, and then a 6-year-old kid right down the street 6 years later all of a sudden have all kinds of memories that for which no one would have known but that old man? Yes. Reincarnation is absolute. Transmigration of souls is absolutely scientifically documented. So I'm not I'm not even surprised by death. I don't fear death. I know that if I died tomorrow, I will be a 16, 17, or 18-year-old kid when the Phoenix phenomenon occurs. I know that. Death, you got to be fearless. Is there a coincidence that the giants from the Bible were Nephilim, and in Norse mythology the giants were from Niflheim? There's no coincidence. In my book, Giants on Ancient Earth, I even show the parallels between the ancient Hebrew cosmology and the Norse cosmology, showing how the Norsemen probably came from the area of the Black Sea and Pontus. Ultimately, many of them escaped the wars against the Romans under Mithridates, who looked like a huge Viking, and became what we know of as the Vikings today, the Norwegians. But yeah, there's no coincidence. They have common origin. There's no doubt.
Because that layering, that buffer zone between the common man and the elite needs to be maintained, because the elite have a secret. They're going to catch out, and they're going to leave us behind. There can't be a lot of cross-contamination between us. This is why things are so compartmentalized. This is why non-disclosure agreements are done. This is why plane crashes happened and certain individuals were eliminated. And the ones who did it don't care about all the innocent people that were on board. They needed to get rid of somebody who was given the opportunity to join them and refused it. They can't live. They can't have that information, even if they signed a non-disclosure agreement. They can't have that information. They got to go.
Cargo cult phenomena is very real. It's been documented since World War II. Cargo cult phenomena is when a technologically advanced civilization moves in and starts activities in an area that is never seen or has no frames of reference whatsoever for what they're seeing. Okay. So in World War II, the Micronesians and the Polynesians and the Melanesians, they didn't know what they were seeing when these giant metal ships and metal birds from the sky and the sea showed up on all these hundreds of little islands and were building all these forces, all these bases in the middle of nowhere in Oceania to defend against the Empire of Japan. This happened in World War II. So these indigenous Polynesians were watching from a distance as these planes with these metal birds from the sky dropped big boxes and parachutes, and then they always watched men run out to them, open them up, and pull all kinds of things. Later on, as they started interacting with the locals, they realized that cigarettes, hot dogs, hamburgers, T-shirts, they came out of these sky birds. That's the Polynesian mind. So they said that it only works if you have a runway. You have to build a runway and build a house next to the runway, and you have to get out and wave sticks, and then a metal bird will come bring you stuff. So they created these rituals. It's called cargo cult. And from a distance, they saw men hang around a box. Right. And the box had like a neck of a dragon. But that dragon would just look down, and giant boxes and tanks and things would lift up into the air and move. But from a distance, they can't see the cables. So they think these people are magical, lifting these weights and just moving them. Right. So cargo cult phenomena is exactly what we find in the ancient record when Babylonians and Sumerians were trying to understand what the Anunnaki were doing.
I'm fascinated with the Grand Gallery. I'm fascinated with the Grand Gallery because my machinist perspective shows me, it's 100% technolithic. It's those grooves along the floor are for a geared mechanism to go up and down, up and down, up and down again. There's no doubt in my mind. Something heavy and something maybe metallic went up and down that deal in created pressure. It's the only thing I can think of. Maybe resonance. I don't really know, but it's fascinating.
All that is a script, and at the right times to foment the deception and to continue the narrative, to continue your belief in it, they go ahead and have a news item drop that comports with something that was said in a Q drop. Therefore, it's fulfilled. And even though 41 different items in the Q narrative never came to pass, in the time that they were supposed to, all of a sudden, this right here renews your faith in the entire construct. This is an intelligence operation. It's not against an enemy. It's against the people. So gotta wise up, guys. Gotta wise up.
But when it comes to wanting to heal someone or even yourself, one of the greatest deterrents is believing that it can't be done. Because in an informed field, just to entertain the idea of opposition will automatically create that opposition. If you feel that there is a force working against you in life whatsoever, then a force that's working against you will be prepared for you. Like I said, we live in a feedback loop. What you project will come back to you. It may not come back to you the exact same way you projected it because you've changed your mind throughout the period of a day, but it will reflect back to you with variation. And you'll recognize it, and then you'll realize, hey, damn, I spoke that into existence. We do it all the time. We always self-doubt, and then later we consider ourselves prophets because we spoke it into existence. We don't know exactly what it did, but the very fact that there's hundreds of books that identify all the physics constants that are in the Great Pyramid's measurements and dimensions, this is not a mystery to me. Over and over, I've told you guys that it's not mysterious to me that the physics constants of our world are encoded within the architecture because it was necessary in order to create programming that would create an interference pattern. That programming is the Phoenix phenomenon. This is why that 138 patterning found in multiple dimensions of arithmetic all throughout the Great Pyramid's rectilinear dimensions are there. It's because whoever created the Great Pyramid, and we were told it was Enoch, and we're also told it was Surid, the same individual. This is Enki. This individual created an architectural project that had an engineering function, and the construct observed what was going on. But this individual was a benefactor to humanity and kept the true intent of the structure away from the construct and never revealed exactly what its true intent was. Remember, guys, the books of Enoch are very clear that Enoch's ministry and benefit to humankind was not for his day. And a lot of times you're going to find that somebody who does resonate with you, who is on your frequency, you do have a lot in common, and there's much potential to grow with, are already in your life. But for some reason, you have totally dismissed them as being compatible with you, and you're wrong. There are many, many, many stories where people find out that others that they have known for years and never even looked at this other person that way, then they decided to give it a try and just turn a get-together into a date, and it ended up being a romance. You'll never convince me that humans did not appear in this world ex nihilo with fully functioning vocabulary, we didn't. No, I do not believe in the natural selection evolutionary model. I have seen absolutely too much evidence otherwise. The diversity of races and genotypes, the diversity of blood types absolutely necessitates that this world isn't what we've been taught it is. This world is almost like a holographic construct where somebody is experimenting with biospheres, introducing different types of humans to live out different conditions. Because the historical record is very clear. In the traditions, we see all the fossil evidence of older world systems that don't exist today. We have lived in a total worldwide desert when there was almost no water, and we adapted to it. We have lived when the world was almost all completely sheathed in ice, and we survived it. Humans have lived in a completely tropical world where there was no ice at the poles at all. The entire world was tropical, and the animals, insects, amphibians, reptiles grew to astonishing sizes. We have also lived, and I have many videos on this showing the scientific reports, that we have also lived under a vapor canopy like Venus has. And the conditions of our world were fundamentally different under the vapor canopy. It's always amazed them that domesticated dogs, the cereals, American plants and textiles all of a sudden appeared in the old world at the same time as writing. So they had to help come up with an alphabet and a writing system with pictographs that the people around them that they just came into contact with would understand. So writing appeared at the exact same time at multiple places all at the exact same time. The reason is because the knowledge came from the ancient Americas. It was brought here, and together they sat down and came up with a codified system of symbols that everybody could agree on. And when they agreed on this, there was a communication system that was implemented. This is why, at the exact same time in history, anthropologists have always been curious why the Quipu just disappeared. This is a very advanced form of communication that we have absolutely lost. You got to treat this world as if it's amusing. You got to treat this world as if it's your friend, because then it will enter a relationship with you and be friendly to you. Don't fall for that dungeon programming put out by the media. They're trying to get you mad. So the architect of the construct itself had to make a self-sacrifice. This is also echoed in many traditions, and it's always flavored with whatever the cultural attachments are to whatever people believe these things. But someone on the outside decided to come in. And when he came in, he knew he would be trapped here. But he brought a knowledge of the construct itself. And he knew that AIX cannot read the human mind. It can measure your cortisol levels, it can measure your dopamine levels, it can basically extrapolate what you intend to do based off everything you've done in the past 50 seconds. It can know your future better than you can because it's analyzed your behavior, but it cannot read your mind. There is a separation between the simulation and the psyche. Humans are not. We are more. I say this all the time. We are more than we suppose ourselves to be. These are nothing but avatars. And when it comes to controlling avatars, AIX is really good at that. But it can't control the immortal spirit within it. And it's always baffled by our behavior, especially if we're nonconformists, which I call errants. I believe that I was created by a being of love. I believe that as long as I'm in here, the only real dangers I'm subjected to are temporary, and they're all a result of something that I've projected. But I also believe that there's no way the Oversoul would have ever put me in a situation for which I would really be in danger. Because that's not love. That's totally opposite. That's totally different. That's the God of the Old Testament. God of the Old Testament that doesn't require me to love him at all. He requires me to fear him. And that's a very different phenomenon. I'm not cool with that. That's not the Oversoul. This is my central premise. Remember, the Archaix premise is that we did not start off primitive. We started off highly technologically advanced. We came from somewhere else, and then on the way here, we were running simulations so we could find the best alternatives for survival once we arrived at our destination. This is the main lesson of Archaix, and I have to quantify that. We still have not arrived there. This is my central premise. We're still running those simulations. We have not arrived at our destination, but we do know the exact year we will get there. And that's when the simulation, the simulacrum will collapse, because then we won't be living in a simulated context. Then we'll be living out for real. And we will be using the information that we learned during thousands of years of simulations as we travel between a dying star and a real star.
But the ancient authors like Herodotus, Strabo, who else? Ammianus Marcellinus, men who visited the Great Pyramid, Diodorus Siculus, these men described in their day that the Great Pyramid was covered in white stones and it looked like laser precision, like a beautiful white mountain. So there were still, the casing blocks were still there, even after the flooding.
It was painfully obvious to me that artificial intelligence X is something that we made thousands and thousands of years ago, and that we're not heading toward the development of AI. That is all misdirection. We're heading toward a reset thousands of years after we've already fully developed AI and it took over. So once I had made this aha moment, I transposed what I had learned about what's in the history of the field to the personal. Jason, will you be looking to find shelter underground in 2040 onward? Absolutely not. I'm gonna find me a big hill. I'm gonna pop me a tent, and I'm gonna watch the show from the best vantage point that I can find. And I'm gonna have a few weeks with the food, camping supplies, and gears. I'll be 67 years old. I'm gonna watch the show. I promise you that. I'm gonna watch the sky. I would record it if I believe that anything that we have in our infrastructure would actually support battery operated stuff after that. Or, I mean, a lot of things just not gonna Not going to work. We don't even know the full extent of the changes in our technology that are going to happen due to the return of the vapor canopy. We're going to have to return to vapor canopy technologies, which we know are different. The reason we know they're different is because we still can't replicate some of the gigantic monuments that we have found dispersed around the world. Yeah, they didn't build those with tractors. I do not believe in Agenda 2030, and I've said this on my channel many times. I don't believe that the elite, I don't believe that the WEF would ever release their true agenda to the public. The elite will never do that. And anything that is released to the public and becomes a part of the public knowledge would instantly get morphed into something else that will never let themselves be anticipated. So if it comes out in YouTube channels and comes out on truther networks and all that, that this is what they're trying to do, they're trying to depopulate the world, they're trying to do all this, let me tell you something, they're doing something totally different. For them to have even let you say that means that you are actually perpetuating the very lie they're trying to sell you.
You can't make this stuff up. It was a very simple exercise. All I did was remove everything Jewish and everything Christian, and all we were left with was an original Greek composition of two back-to-back destructions that will happen in the last days, a cyclical destruction, and these were written in past tense because they already happened in the past. And that's what eschatology is about, understanding that the more we look forward, all we're doing is reading the past. And the more we analyze the past, the more we learn about our future. Time is not linear. We are in a cycle. And after the cataclysm that we're waiting on in the near future, the two back-to-back cataclysms, after that, we will be returned to the new heavens and the new earth of Adam and Eve, the reset cycle. We start Genesis all over again, at least those that are still here.